Hello and welcome to Extraordinary with me, James Wallace, the podcast that shines a light on ordinary people who have gone on to do and see extraordinary things. And in this episode, I'm joined by BGT legend. It's Ashley Glazebrook, aka Twist from Twist and Pulse.
I'm Ashley and I'm Glenn. Together we're Twist and Pulse.
The winner of Britain's Got Talent The Champions 2019 is Twist and Pulse!
We never had a sit-down moment of like, let's create a dance duo, let's fuse street dance with a bit of comedy and add our personality in, and we're going to be called Twist and Pulse. It wasn't ever like that. If I kicked a ball now in front of my whole class, everybody's first thought would be like, oh my God, he's gay.
This guy was on my TV screen as an innocent 18-year-old kid dancing to EastEnders, and now he's talking about his sexuality, and like, I feel seen.
I was 23, just about to turn 24 when I came out. I hadn't had many girlfriends. I was a couple years into like Twist and Pulse life, and I was very, very busy with performing and getting lots of attention. And there was still no chat of like, yeah, like I went clubbing last night, I met this girl. Yeah, if I just say I'm bi, it's like, I'm not gay. I'm bi. Deep down, somewhere in my body, right at the bottom, I would have known that they would have been fine. But all the stuff on top of that was like, what if this? What if that? What if they haven't got those views? Like, what if I've just been assuming that my whole life?
If you are famous and closeted, how did you go about your life, or did you just not?
I know I'm not Beyonce level, but just come off of BGT, which was ITV's biggest show of all time, and there's no way I'm uploading a profile picture to my profile. Like, you must be crazy. Oh, do you want to show each other our faces now? And it's like, hi guys, I've been holding this in my whole life, I'm gay. Like, I didn't ever do that. For me, my coming out video was the proposal, living life as a gay man, accepting it, finding my lifelong partner, getting married, having a child. Like, that actually sounds like a fairy tale.
Before we begin this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe from wherever you're listening from, because it just helps the podcast reach even more people, and of course that is always a good thing. Also, please don't forget that this podcast is not monetized or sponsored in any way, which is why I've signed up to buymeacoffee.com, which is a platform that allows creators like me raise funds to help contribute towards the ongoing cost and maintenance of running a podcast, which in these days is not very cheap. I've set my price at just £3, so it really is just the price of a coffee. If you want to contribute, I will leave the link in the show notes below. With that being said, and without any further ado, enjoy the show. So Ashley, thank you so much for joining me today. I have a feeling lots of people will know who you are, but for those who don't, would you mind just telling everyone who you are and what you do?
So my name's Ashley. I'm one half of street dance duo Twist and Pulse. I'm the Twist. And yeah, I'm a new dad. And yeah, it's so funny because whenever people ask me to introduce myself as myself, I've had like 13 years of being like, I'm Ash and this is Glenn and we're Twist and Pulse. And like, as soon as you're by yourself, you're like, who am I without Glenn?
To be fair, it is, no matter who you are, where you are, what you've done, it is the worst question. Like, even at work, when someone's like, and what do you do? I'm like, I do lots of things. But and you always feel like you're going to give yourself a disservice. Like, you feel like this pressure to like
every time
say something brilliant that like is just quite, normal and ordinary. But goes without saying, like, yes, you were Twist and Pulse, but, Twist and Pulse is ingrained in so many people's memory because you were on BGT at its peak. Like, I don't know how many millions of people were watching it, but it was like, it was iconic. Like, it was insane. So how old were you when you were on it?
So I was 18. Yeah, 18. So, yeah. It was just mad, and you're right. It was one of them like BGT peak times, like when people were literally running home to watch it live, like rather than, I'll just watch it tomorrow or in the week. Like, people were literally making sure they were on their sofa ready to go. It's mad.
Well, we that was in a day. I know it wasn't that long ago, 13 years ago, but it was at a time where people watched linear TV. We didn't stream. Like, BGT wasn't on Netflix. Like, you had to watch it live on a Saturday night. And I guess you went into it at 18, which is like a critical age in terms of like going into adulthood. So actually, let's go back a bit. So how, looking back from 18 and before in your more formative years, What were the events that led up to your spotlight or your time to shine on BGT?
From as young as I can remember, I've always been into music and dance. Like my parents always used to play great songs around the house, like R&B, soul, Motown, that kind of vibe. So there's always been amazing music around me. And naturally, just as you're a kid, just getting into like random dancing at birthday parties, musical statues and that. But yeah, it's I just kind of got into it there. But then I took a real liking to gymnastics in terms of like hobbies and that. And I really got into that. And I loved that for a few years. Had a bit of a fall. I didn't really get up and do it again. And it just kind of created a mental block as such, as I've heard lots of gymnasts talk about mental blocks. And you just kind of have to go back and do it. And then as I started secondary school, I would say I just gradually, it was that time where dance moves were coming into fashion, as in like if you could do the moonwalk, you were an absolute legend. Like everybody loved you and they thought you were the best thing ever. And I remember, it's funny, my dad could actually do the moonwalk, and he's the one that taught me how to moonwalk, me and my brother. I remember it. It's just so crazy. Yeah, in our front room, just I was like, yeah, like the fact that my dad could moonwalk, like thinking of it now, I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah, that isn't it. Do you come from, I know you said your family were into music, but do you come from like a performing background? Like what was, performing encouraged? Did anyone else in your family, work in the entertainment world?
No, not at all. In terms of like, the short answer is no. They just liked music and things like that. But my dad, I think for like a year, my dad was in a band, but I'm not saying a band as in like he was on Top of the Pops. Like it wasn't that vibe. It was
like amateur stuff.
Yeah. But I think it was only for a little bit, and but he always liked music like that. Do you know what I mean? And he was always known as like he could dance as a guy, even in his teen years. It was like if you was a guy and you could dance, like everyone was like, oh my God. But it wasn't like a professional dancer. Do you know what I mean? He just knew how to do a little 1-2 step at a party. So.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we're going to talk about later on in the episode is kind of your sexuality and being an openly proud married dad. Engaged. Sorry, I just saw the ring and I assumed. Sorry, engaged.
No, it's fine. Nearly married though. Next May. So.
Next May. Incredible. And I'm just interested because I see a lot of, obviously I never made it to Britain's Got Talent, but I absolutely, the gymnastics thing resonates with me. The dance thing resonates with me. I was always at the front at kids' parties, like showing off my big thing. I never did the moonwalk, but my big thing was like the crip walk.
Oh my God, I was going to actually say the crip walk instead of moonwalk. Not that it wasn't that, but it was like those moves. It was the moonwalk, the crip walk, but not a lot of people know it by the crip walk, but that just shows you how much we are literally the exact same age, both grew up in London. I think it was definitely that kind of thing. But those moves, they are the exact. I remember that crip walk, and everyone's like, "Oh my!" Like losing their mind.
And that was like I would like take so much pride at the parties in like the year 6 or year 7 discos or whatever, like doing it, and that was like my thing. And I lived in like UFOs, like parachute pants, which has actually come back in. I used to go to Top Man and buy like my big baggy cargos.
Oh my God!
So I totally see myself in what you were saying, but I knew at the time that, I wasn't straight. And there was a bit of masking going on, and I was self-censoring already at that age, like, liking dance, but not liking it too much.
Yeah.
But obviously you became a professional dancer. So I just wonder in hindsight, how much were you, proud and pushing it in the context of, keeping your sexuality a secret?
I think for me, this is a good question. I think for me, it was quite different because I was strictly street dance. Like I said, around that time, year 6, year 7, and things like the moonwalk and crip walk and all those trending moves that were about them, it was redeemed as cool. So like if you could do that, it was like you were the sickest football player at school as well. It was that same vibe. Obviously, there was still, I would say, like a little part of me that some boys or even male teachers was still like, oh, dancing's for girls. But like because the moves were cool and the music was coming in and all the films at the time were like You Got Served and Honey and Step Up, and when all them amazing dance films that changed the game come about, it was a little bit like, it was okay because it was like seen as cool. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I
sure.
got away with it in terms of, I think it'd be a different ball game if I was doing ballet or contemporary or jazz even. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like, oh, why are you doing that? And luckily some of the cool kids in school loved it as well. So it's like, if the cool kids like it, then like, yeah, we're all fine.
Did you play sport as well, or is that just not your, no.
Football. See, it's so funny, this question, because for me, football, I was so bad that I couldn't even go down the route of like, if I just kick ball once a week or once a month, no one's going to know I'm gay. But I was so bad that like I couldn't even set a foot on the pitch.
No, it's like that thing. I remember seeing a TikTok or a meme or something. It's like the gay trauma when a ball comes towards you and you're walking in the park and you're like, fuck, what do I do with this? How am I going to kick it? I can't even kick a ball straight, let alone towards a goal.
Yeah, and it's like that definitely was in my brain of like, if I kicked a ball now in front of my whole class, everybody's first thought would be like, oh my God, he's gay.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. It's in our genes. It's just not. It's not something that we can.
I don't know if this is so funny. I had this conversation with my fiance like within the last year. Is it because we're gay, we're bad at football, or is it just a huge coincidence for so many gay guys?
I'm adamant that there is something genetic, and I long for the day in the next sort of couple of decades or whatever where we can finally prove that gay men are genetically predisposed to being terrible at football. Like, it's just not something we can do.
That needs to be a TV show, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, there are out footballers now, because that was the other thing. It was like, well, it must be because no one who's gay even plays football anyway. But obviously, we know that that's not true.
Yeah,
But I totally agree. And again, it was one of the even though it's hilarious to laugh about it now in our 30s, but at the time when you're a kid and I don't know about your school, but at my school, I was forced to play football. Like, there was no option. And it's like, what the fuck am I meant to do with this? Like, it's so obvious that I'm not straight.
Yeah.
Even in primary school, not that even that I'd recognized it by then, but like, it's really, really tough. It's traumatizing for kids to be forced to play something they're shit at.
Yeah.
Or hate. But also, I went to gymnastics clubs as well. And I feel like you just did it a lot better than I did. But I went to Pineapple. I did gymnastics. Like, that was my thing. I absolutely loved it. But I think I stopped it all because I was just exposing myself. I was basically outing myself all the time. Terrible, isn't it? But then you went on to Brit School, which is like insane. Like, I remember like Brit School, I mean, everyone's been to Brit School, like in the UK, like the biggest musical exports, like Jessie J, Adele, Twist from Twist and Pulse.
Hey.
And like, what was that experience like?
It was, the best thing I've ever done in my life. Like, it was amazing. And it was the first time that, as much as dance went amazing for me in my secondary school, dance wasn't a part of the curriculum in my secondary school. So Brit School was the first time that I actually felt like where I should be. And like, every single other person there was a creative in some way. Like, even if you was like technical theatre or media, musical theatre, dance, like just singing, like every single person when you go into the canteen that you don't even know, but everyone's there because they've got this creative mind. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I loved about it. The energy was mad. The way people dressed, because there was no school uniform. You just rocked up as yourself, like as your personality, because your personality is based off of what you wear. And
so was this secondary school?
So I went to Brit. So you can start from year 10, but I started in year 12. So this was like my college sixth form time. Yeah.
And who was in your class?
Only Glenn, Pulse. No, in the same year, Jordan from Rizzle Kicks.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan was there same year. I can't remember. I want to say he did theatre, either theatre or music. And I forgot the other guy's name, but the other guy that was in Rizzle Kicks as well. Both of them were there at the same time me and Glenn were there. But again, we didn't really know each other, but because they were in separate strands but everyone kind of knew of each other's faces and things like that. And we've done gigs with them in the past. And we've seen each other and been like, oh, Brit School. And they're like, yeah, I thought I knew your face from there. And so like, it's nice to have that. But I think I started a year later. So I went to my secondary school sixth form for a year.
Fine.
Because I didn't know what was going on with my life. And I just loved something performing, but I didn't really know what that looks like yet. And I didn't know about the Brit School until one of my best friends told me. He was like, yeah, I'll just go to college and like sing and dance all day. And I'm like, I'm here at my sixth form just trying to pretend I'm doing like a radio show in media. But yeah, anyway, so I started a year later, but the year I was meant to be there, I think Jessie J and Adele just left. And I was like, oh, I would have died if they were there.
Insane.
Sometime.
That's incredible. Yeah, because we're kind of all of the same age, aren't we?
Yeah, within like a 5-year age gap, I would say. Leona Lewis popped in actually when we was there. We were doing like a dance class, and they'd like the head of the school just came in and was like, we've got a special guest, can we just pop in? She's literally just like rolled in, and this was like, obviously she's still Leona Lewis and she's amazing, but this was like, again, at peak times of like X Factor, and I was one of those that watched X Factor every Saturday as well. Like, I'm not missing it. And she was like one of my favourite winners of all time. So I remember when she just came into the studio and everyone was like, Leona Lewis. Like, yeah, it was insane. It's such a lovely, yeah, I just miss it. I always, like, when I catch up with friends and stuff, or I bump into people, I'm like, I literally would love to go back for a week or a day.
Yeah, because the only reason why, I guess, you know, the marketing of Brit School is all done because when people win awards like Leona Lewis, not Leona Lewis, but Jessie J or Adele, they always talk about it. You know, at the Brit Awards every year, they're like, shout out to the Brit School because all the kids are at the front. And it's just, yeah, it's amazing. And it must be amazing to be around those sorts of people to encourage you to pursue what it is that you wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
Which I guess leads me on to my next question, which was, what was that? So you'd gone to Brit School, but what did you actually want to do career-wise?
Like, I think when I joined Brit School, I realised that I wanted dance to be my career, whether that be a dance teacher and go into teaching, or join like a performance company that do tours and stuff, or just like normal kind of backing dancer, music videos, that kind of thing. So I knew I wanted to do something within that, and Brit School made me realise that, because when I went to my sixth form the year before, I had no idea what that career path looked like within the performing arts industry. So yeah, and I could actually see myself more in, like, I was really pushing myself to go into more like contemporary dance, because once I started studying at Brit School for 2 years, I really, really enjoyed it. And we did a few different performance pieces and stuff that was kind of heavily focused on that. And I kind of found like a new love for another dance style, and that was that. But on my last year of Brit School, that's the year me and Glenn auditioned for BGT, just thinking nothing of it. And that's where Twist and Pulse like organically just started happening. We never had a sit down moment of like, let's create a dance duo, let's fuse street dance with a bit of comedy and add our personality in, and we're going to be called Twist and Pulse. So it wasn't ever like that. We just started dancing as mates at lunchtime and just started creating like random little pieces of choreo. And then I think we just performed it once at, like a lunchtime or a performance at school. And everyone was just like, whatever this is amazing. Like, you guys need to like carry on doing that. And then it just led on to BGT. And then, so in my last year, I just kind of, it all happened so like naturally. It's weird. We did BGT, not thinking anything of it, because those times were like, people like us don't get opportunities to go on BGT like that and like actually do well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even expect to see myself on TV at all. And then we come second. And then I remember in between coming second and then going on to the BGT arena tour, there was like a month in between, and I was resitting my maths exam at Brit School, like my GCSE maths, because I failed like when I was in year 11. And I remember like walking in and everybody was staring at me like I was Michael Jackson. I was like, what's going on? I was like, this is so weird. I was like, why is everyone looking like this is, and it was that whole period of like, I literally just come off of what you said earlier, ITV1, biggest show of all time, like millions and millions of viewers. And I had no understanding of what it was going to be like. We both didn't. We just carried on getting on buses and until it got to a point of like, this is too much. Like, we need to learn how to drive.
And it's something that I've always wondered, like what it's actually like to be famous or to be recognized in the street, to go from like 18-year-old kid, like not really knowing what you're going to do with your life, you're with your best mate or a mate, and you audition, and you're coming second on the biggest show on TV at the time, where like tens of millions of people will know who you are in this country, but also internationally as well. Like, it wasn't just in the UK. It's like people watch BGT worldwide. So I can imagine, especially being 18 as well, and like, you know, a good looking straight guy, like what would that feel like to just be stopped? No, like, was it everything that people make it out to be?
Yeah, like, it's amazing. I'm not going to lie. Like, it was insane. And especially, as you just said, like 18 years of age, it's like, it was just amazing. And like, you're in your prime, you're in your element of like, this is insane. But it's weird at the same time. Like, I was obviously becoming known for being a dancer. So like, it was a good thing. So like, and people had that connection of, they've seen us perform and they like what they see. So naturally, when they see you in person, it's like they already like you because they know what you're about and they know your vibe. Whereas you could become famous for something else. So like, I don't know in that field, but with us, it's like, we literally was just having fun on TV and dancing to songs we loved. And if people liked that, then it feels like, even still now, I said it the other day, we jumped out at a service station somewhere. I was with my brother, and he was like, do you not find that mad how like 13 years later, people are like, oh, it's just imposed, like still now. And I was like, yeah, it is mad. Like, but it feels like I have friends everywhere. Like, I could travel to Newcastle and I would just go into Costa and get a coffee, and the person would be like, oh, just imposed. And I was like, this is mad. Like, I've just traveled 6 hours and it feels like I've got friends everywhere. You know what I mean? It's a really nice feeling. And I've been lucky that I haven't ever, I don't think, bumped into anyone that's given me abuse or grief or anything like that. You know what I mean? Because I'm aware that happens for some people, and that's awful. Like, You're
right to point out the whole, your kind of path to fame, I guess, was really pure and really wholesome. You know, BGT is essentially a reality TV show where you were shown to be the pure and wholesome duo that you are. So I'd be surprised if there was any trolling or, you know, hate thrown at you. And of course, it was pre-Instagram, or pre-heyday of Instagram and pre-TikTok. So social wasn't as disgusting as it is now. But that's so nice. And you must feel really proud when you go to Costa and someone says, oh my God, you're Twist and Pulse.
Yeah.
Like, you're a legend. Like, love you. Like, here's your latte. Like, it's really lovely, isn't it?
No, it is. It's amazing. And I think I've always known that, but I appreciate it even more now because I think it's 13 years on and I've done a lot of like growing and stuff myself. But it's like, you genuinely know when someone recognizes you and they will say something like, oh my God, like, I voted for you, or like, I really remember that bit when you danced to EastEnders, and like, I love, and it's actually got a place in their heart. Exactly what we were talking about earlier, that time of BGT, for people to remember 13 years on and they still have that vivid like memory of that moment Twist and Pulse done that routine. It's like, it means the most to us. Like, every single time someone stops me and says something, I'm just like, I actually say something like, no, honestly, like, thank you so much. That means the most. Like, I really appreciate you coming to say that today because, yeah, it's just so kind.
For me, I'm a big BGT fan and a big X Factor fan, and I'm still gutted that neither of them are on. But I have vivid memories of you guys in your red and your blue outfits, and I'm Twist and Pulse, and we remember the EastEnders scene, and it was absolutely amazing. But what I love is that you have carried on hustling because, like I said before we started recording, so many hundreds of people audition for BGT every series. You see hundreds every series, and you learn their names, and then they just disappear. And I feel like Twist and Pulse has never disappeared, even though it was 13 years ago. And you personally doing the work that you're doing on TikTok and social media more broadly, talking about your life, your growth, your relationship, your kid, like, is so weird now as that. And I'm talking about myself as a 32-year-old. I'm now piecing together these dots, being like, oh my God, this guy was on my TV screen as like an innocent 18-year-old kid dancing to EastEnders. And now he's talking about his sexuality. And like, I feel seen, and I feel like you're doing such an incredible job, probably more than you care to realize, of how many hundreds of thousands of people's lives you've made better by keeping at it.
Mate, that's so kind, because honestly, I don't ever feel like I am. Do you know what I mean? And it's weird because I never thought that I would be able to do that. And even hearing you saying that, like, yeah, it makes me so happy. And the fact that I'm helping someone out there. And it's weird because I had that thought process before I even uploaded my first picture with my fiance, filmed my first video speaking about being gay. I didn't really, I always have that thought of, as long as this helps one other person, like, that's the reason I'm doing this. I'm not just doing it because I'm bored and I want to make content, because it's my private life. And I'm like, if I could keep it private, I probably would. But I've realized over the years that I can reach so many different people that may need to hear my voice at that moment in time, and it's going to help them. Do you know what I mean? Because we all needed that. When we were like 13, 14, those ages when we were struggling, we all needed those things. And that's like sometimes when I feel like maybe I shouldn't, or like, oh, don't speak up on this anymore or something like that. I think, no, are you crazy? Like, there's so much work to be done and we've come such a long way, but there's still new 11, 12, 13-year-olds that then need to hear it. It might happen to fall into their lap, or their parent might see it and think, oh, I should be speaking to my child like that, because, do you know what I mean? Anything. So, yeah, I'm glad it comes across like that. I really am.
No, it does. And you know, we're in the same business of having the conversations that we needed to hear when we were younger, when we were teenagers, probably. You know, even like for me, the darkest times were probably between the ages of 13 and 18. Like, and had I have known that you can live happy, healthy, gay lives, then like maybe I might have not had as many dark times. But I think, even for me as an out and proud gay person, me scrolling on TikTok and seeing, Ashley from Twist and Pulse is proposing to his fiance, I was like, what the fuck? Like, and I obviously that's normal. Like, man in love proposes to other man in love. But I was just like, oh my God, that is so powerful obviously in a very good way, but it shouldn't be. It almost like shouldn't be powerful. Because to me, it was like, he's a dancer. He was so straight presenting. He was, representing something that lots of straight people wanted, but actually he's gay, and it's amazing. And I think even as a 30-year-old, and I always come back to the argument that, yes, it's amazing that we get well-known people coming out, but it takes an army. Like, we need lots more to sort of really move the dial. And you're definitely part of that movement. And I think, honestly, I just think it's so amazing how open and vulnerable you've been as well, because I think it's one thing saying, yeah, this person's gay, because I think what we all often forget is what you and I will definitely, you'll know what I mean when I say this, is that when it was Will Young and Gareth Gates in the final of Pop Idol, and it was Will Young is gay on the headline of The Sun.
Yeah.
And you get so many, and who else was there? And like, if you think back to the characters that we had on Big Brother, it was all the very camp, extrovert, over the top, and we had no point of reference growing up.
At all. And
it was really, really tough. So tell me about your coming out story. How did it all start?
It's weird. So basically I was 23, just about to turn 24 when I came out. There's so many like versions of this story, but they're all the same version. But my friend, one of my good friends, shout out to Jeffrey, he actually asked me, it got to a point for him, I think, where he probably realized that I hadn't had many girlfriends and things like that. And I was a couple years into like Twist and Pulse life, and I was very, very busy with performing and getting lots of attention. And there was still no chat of like, yeah, like I went clubbing last night, I met this girl, and like we went back to the hotel, or there wasn't no, yeah, I'm seeing someone, or I'm going on a few dates. There was nothing of that chat. And I think at that moment in time, because I was getting so much attention, I think for him it was a bit of, and now knowing everything, he he had a strong idea anyway, because he was in my dance group that I was in, like in my teenage years, and we're very, very close. We went through everything together. So he pretty much knew anyway, but he felt like it got to a point when he felt like he could ask me. He said he was absolutely horrified that, like, when he was about to do it, because it's that question of like, even if you know your friend is quite possibly gay, it's like to actually ask them is like, it's so personal. But sometimes people need that. But then the other side to that is like, no, they'll be ready when they're ready, but you'll never be ready, as you probably know. So yeah, anyway, he asked me, and I happened to say to him, like, I was at a point in my life when I was like, do you know what? I can just say it. I think I even went down the whole, yeah, I like both, I'm bi route, because that makes it better, right? Everyone's just like, yeah, if I just say I'm bi, it's like, I'm not gay, I'm bi, which is awful. Like
I think we all did that.
Yeah, I think, again, it was just that time of, if I say this now, it's like, oh, only half of me is gay. Is that better? Do you know what I mean? And I knew that he would be fine with it anyway, so I don't even know why. But again, it's come from so much like trauma from my whole life, from as young as I can remember, to like all of a sudden I think I'm just going to wake up and be like, yeah, guys, I'm gay, and like love it. Like it's a journey, is it? It's a process of your emotions and feelings and finding yourself and being comfortable. So yeah, so that was that. But then again, from, I think it must have been about 6 months to a year, like after that moment, I didn't then think, oh, like I've told my mate Jeffrey, I can just go and tell my mum now, my brothers. Like, it wasn't that at all. It was like, wow, glad that's over with. Like, he got out of my car and I was like, bye. Like, do you know what I mean? So then it took me like another further year, say. And yeah, I basically come out to my mum, but something happened in my life. It's such a shame. I can tell you after we stop recording, but something happened in my life when I was like, yeah, I have to tell my mum. Like, I have to tell her, like, I can't actually go on anymore. Like, I can't get through today unless I tell my mum that I'm gay. Like, I just can't do it anymore. It just got to a point of like a boiling point where I was at my lowest. And it was just, yeah, it was too much.
Was the event connected to your sexuality?
So for me to tell my mum the event, I was telling her that I was gay. I had to tell her, to tell her the event that I needed to tell her. She would be finding out I'm gay. So
Wow.
I was just like, yeah, it was too, honestly, I literally was like, yeah. I'm a huge believer in everything happens for a reason, but I was just like, yeah, I'm literally being like, I have to speak to mum about this event. There's no way I can go to sleep tonight without telling her. But to tell her that, I had to tell her my sexuality, and I've been her son for like 23, 24 years. And it's all coming down to this one moment on this day. And I was just like, this is crazy, man.
And how was that conversation?
It was amazing.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, I was so lucky, man. Like, and it's weird. Like, I've got so much support around me, and my parents are so amazing. And I've always known that they would be fine with it deep down. Sometimes it's hard for me to talk about it now because I'm so comfortable in my skin, and I know our relationship now. And it's been like that for the last 9-10 years.
Mm.
But trying to remember my brain from like a 23-year-old at that moment, deep down, if someone come to me and said, I'm going to give you £1 million to answer this question as honestly as possible, and they said, how do you think your mum and dad are going to take you being gay? Deep down, somewhere in my body, right at the bottom, I would have known that they would have been fine. But all the stuff on top of that was like, what if this? What if that? What if they haven't got those views? Like, what if I've just been assuming that my whole life? And do you know what I mean? There's always the if and buts of like, this ain't going to go down right. She's going to say, oh, I don't know how I feel about that, Ashley. Like, you're going to have to move out for now. And do you know what I mean? Like, you don't know. But deep down, I knew that it would be fine. But it was just that fear of doing it. But no, the conversation was really nice. Like, it was emotional. Yeah, we both cried. And like, it's funny. My mum even says now, like, she had no idea. But when I speak to like my brothers, they're like, oh yeah, we knew.
So funny. I'm the same. I worked in Topshop at the time. I had my tongue pierced, my nose pierced. I had 3 piercings in my ear, had highlights. My first ever job was at a hair salon, washing hair. I loved dance, hated football. And yeah, I got the same. She was like, I'm so surprised. called it a bombshell. I was like, you what?
A bombshell.
And in a way, like, that was more hurtful because it was like, how did you not know? Like, you could have made it easier for me.
You know what it is though? I think my mum said it, and maybe your mum's the same, is that they don't see what everyone else sees. They see their son for who they are. And I remember my mum saying that, like, my mum hasn't got the mindset of like, oh, when you first kicked a ball when you were 5, your other 2 brothers were like David Beckham and you were like all over the place. And she didn't even think like, oh, he may be gay. Like, my mum doesn't have those thoughts in her head. She just sees that I'm different and I like something else, like everyone else likes something else in the world. You know what I mean? So I think that's a really lovely thing about like parents and our mums in this situation. But yeah, I was like, wow, like, I was surprised that she didn't expect it.
I'd argue it's like a generational thing as well, because I think we grew up at a time where there was no LGBT in the mainstream media anyway. Like Section 28, I always talk about, wasn't repealed until you and I had both left our primary school. We were in year 8, year 9, if my maths is done properly. So like our parents and ourselves included just didn't have a frame of reference. Like, it wasn't part of everyday lexicon. Like, we didn't talk about who's gay, who's not gay. Like, no one was gay. And if you were perverted or a bit, you know, that's where the word like bent or queer comes from.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, when you're trying to process in your head, how is my coming out experience going to be before you come out, subconsciously or otherwise, you do prepare yourself for the worst. That I had saved up loads of money. I'd made sure that I had like money in the right place. I'd have somewhere to go. I waited till I went to uni. So I was 18. So I physically, geographically wasn't in the same city, just in case shit got real. But yeah, and I think it's important for anyone listening, you know, gay or otherwise, to know how, you know, what goes on in your head before you come out is really, really, really dark. But obviously very good that you had a good coming out experience. Did you choose not to tell your dad at the same time?
No, so my mum and dad were split at that point.
Right.
So it was so I lived with my mum and stepdad and my 2 brothers, and then my dad and his wife, my stepmom, were in a separate household. So yeah, I just told my mum because it's who I lived with. Do you know what I mean? And I knew it'd have to be either my mum or my dad, but because I lived with my mum, I was going back to my family home that evening. Do you know what I mean? So I knew I had to do it then. So yeah.
And I'm interested to hear what was happening behind the scenes from being 18 on BGT, coming second and having worldwide fame, to coming out at 25, because again, we're the same age. So I kind of know what I was doing at 18, and I wasn't wholly innocent. Like, there was Grindr, there was Tinder at the time. There was all sorts of like websites that I remember, like Manhunt, Lads. There's all sorts of things going on. But like, if you are famous and closeted, how did you go about your life, or did you just not?
Yeah, so the app was definitely installed.
Right.
Around those times. I don't even know how I found out about that, you know. That is so mad. I've not even thought
just
about that.
Do. We just find a way.
I wish I wrote that down the day I found it. But anyway, no. So obviously, like, yeah, I had that. I said it on the video before that I posted, actually. And I used to, once I found out about it, I installed it in my bedroom. And every time I used to leave my room, even if I was just going for dinner, I would delete it because I was that nervous that somebody would find it, or it would make that noise and I forgot to put it on silent or whatever. Do you know what I mean? The noise that we all know, it goes off and you're like, oh. Especially back then when I'm talking like 18, 19, it's like now, like people probably have it on loud, like connected to their Bluetooth in their car. And everyone's like, hey. But
in front of their boyfriends.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh God. But yeah. So what was I talking about? Oh, how I was, from those times. So like, obviously, I'm now in the public eye, and I know I'm not Beyonce level, but as we've spoke about, just come off of BGT, which was ITV's biggest show of all time. And there's no way I'm uploading a profile picture to my profile. Like, you must be crazy. And I'm not out, so I'm not going to do that anyway. Even if I wasn't in the public eye, I wouldn't have put a profile pic anyway, because I'm not out. And it's done via your location, right? And you know everyone in your area and things like that. So, I just had a blank, no picture. My name was something else. My age was right. My height was right. My weight was right. All of that stuff. It sounds so crazy, but I was like, if I write all the truths apart from my name, then people will still like me because I'm the same person, but they just can't see me yet. But I just used to, the early doors, I used to just start off by speaking to others. And to be fair, there were a few other faceless profiles at that moment in time, which I think is more like, I feel like
prolific. Back in the day, I think most people were, because we were all closeted.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was actually, I enjoyed it quite a lot at first because it was just like another person to chat and be honest with.
Yeah.
I've never done that before. And this was before my mate Jeffrey asked me when I was 24. So this is like 18, 19 times. So I did just enjoy it. And it was like my little kind of safe haven of like, I wonder what I can find out tonight, or like how other people feel that are gay. Do you know what I mean? So, but then it just got to the point of, I would like click with someone, or like not even click, but like start to like somebody. And even if it's just liking the way we're chatting, and then it'll be the question like, do you want to show each other our faces now? And it's like, like, I never knew what to do, because then my next thing that maybe the other person didn't have was that because I've got a public profile. So I was like, because that was the thought in my head every time. If I send them now my profile pic and they know Twist and Pulse, they know me then.
Which they would have. The chances are is that they're more likely to know Twist and Pulse than not.
Yeah, exactly. So and then I just used to think it could be anyone on the other end of that chat. And I used to think they could just upload it to, even if it was to their Facebook account or their profile or anything, and just say, like Twist from Twist and Pulse is gay. And that's how all my family and friends found out. And do you know what I mean? I just like, so I want to say for the first like 3-4 years being on like the online dating apps and things, I don't think I ever ended up sending my photo. I think I just kept it to like, I used to send like a body pic, and not even like waist and below, just like my torso, just to show them that, because they were like, how do I know you're not like a 70-year-old man? And I was like, how can I? It was like such a frustrating thing, because I just wanted to send them my face, like my profile pic, but I just couldn't. So I used to just send them like my torso, and then that would be all right for a bit. But then if we carried on getting on and it was going well, it always come back to like what is this? Are we still going to chat and we're just never going to show our faces? It was just it was just so sad. I think about it now, and it's just such a shame, because I wish I just...
Really sad, yeah.
Yeah, I wish I just sent it, do you know what I mean? But at that moment in time, I know I just couldn't, because, I couldn't.
So did you not go on any dates?
No.
You didn't go on any dates until you came out?
No. Like, not dates. Like, I met up, I want to say... Yeah, there was 2 other people that I met up with, which probably you can call dates, actually. But yeah, it just wasn't like a proper comfortable thing that I was like, this is like my date. Do you know what I mean? It was more of like, I found them on this app, and then we were just chatting for a while. And I used to go on strike with it. I used to be like, no, I'm not going on anymore. Like, I've had enough of that. Like, going back into my fighting, I'm straight game of like, maybe I'm not actually gay. Maybe I should need to sleep. I need to sleep with a few girls, and then I'll be straight, and then I don't even need this app. Like, I literally went to those extremes, you know what I mean? Which I'm sure we all do at times. So, I'd log back in, and then that person would still be there like a year later. Like, hello, mate. Like, remember we spoke last year? And I'm like, how you doing? And like, we'll just take off from where we left, because they're still in the same place. They're not out. And it's like, like, might as well chat for another month. And
Yeah.
It was that. It was basically that. So yeah, I missed all the dating stuff really, which is quite sad if I'm honest.
I mean, it's sad, but ultimately, and I talk about this a lot on lots of other episodes, I don't think it's always a bad thing. I think, in my case, I came out at 18 and then I was like dating out in London. There was hookups, there was all the things. And it was just, in hindsight, I don't think it served me well at all.
Right.
Like, I think it's actually quite toxic because you get exposed to kind of like everyone's trauma at the same time.
Okay.
But interesting. So once you came out at 24, 25, I mean, was there any press interest? Did you have to kind of go public? Like, was that something?
No. So because I came out at that age and I still wasn't comfortable in my skin, like I told my mum from that moment to not tell my stepdad, and that's her husband at this time. And I'm like, Mum, you can't tell my stepdad, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't tell my brother. So like over the course of like a year or 6 months, I gradually told all my close-knit family and friends and my people. And I always remember telling them, oh, don't tell anyone if you don't mind. So I was still like slightly in the closet. I wasn't like, guys, I'm gay. Tell everyone, like put it on your Facebook statuses and like tag me. Like it wasn't that kind of thing. So I made a point within my work life, Twist and Pulse public life, to not do anything at that moment in time. Even when we was going to gigs or we got into contracts and things like that, I remember having conversations with Glenn, like, oh, don't tell anyone if you don't have to. Like it was like that. And unless it is usually like a pantomime contract, which are usually between like a month and 2 months, and you're literally with those people every day for 2 months, kind of like a Big Brother house situation, but in a theatre, in a venue. So within like a day to 3 days of rehearsals, you've already been asked, are you single or are you in a relationship? Or like you ask all of those questions, so everyone's just aware of what's going on. And yeah, I remember there were a few years, 1 year in particular, this is going on to another story, but I think it's quite important that because I'm quite like a bubbly personality, I've got a very jokey side to myself and I can be quite sarcastic in a jokey way at times. And I love that about myself. And I love when I meet other people like me. I think it's great. Anyway, one of the girls that was in the show, who definitely was early 30s, mid 30s at the time, and I must have been like 25, 26. And she was like, oh, so have you got a girlfriend then? And I was like, oh, no, I've got a boyfriend. And she went, oh, what's his name? And I was like, oh, Liam. And she was like, oh, Liam, I wonder when we're going to meet Liam. And she thought the whole thing was a joke, the whole thing. And so this was how many years?
Well, because she thought you were having a bit of a banter with her about being straight, about being gay.
Yeah, and because she like got to know me for a week first, and in her head, she was like, "There's no way in the world that you're gay because you're not camp, you're not all of the things." Do you know what I mean? It was exactly that subject matter. It was literally that in a nutshell. It was like. And I think she even said, like, eventually when we got into it, it become a bit of an issue actually. And I remember Glenn actually went up to her and took her to one side and said, like, you need to sort yourself out. Like, cut all the jokes now. It's actually becoming a disrespect to Ashley because he's actually happily in a relationship and he's gay. Like, that's who he is. And like, it took a while for her to be like, oh wow, like she just thought the whole thing, like, there's no way in a million years that Ashley could be gay. And it was literally, it blew my mind. And it became like a really awkward thing of like, oh, does she still think you're joking? I was like, do you know what? I don't even know anymore. Like, I can't even, like, I just kept myself away from it. But I remember it being such a thing. And knowing that now, that's how mad it is that people just, and that happened lots, not that intense. That was the most intense it got. But that happened quite a lot in our work life as Twist and Pulse. Whenever we went to a gig or was working with people, and I would say, oh no, like, I've got a boyfriend. Because the question was always, oh, have you got a girlfriend? Have you got a missus? Nobody ever said back then, like, have you got a partner? Just changing that wording to partner is already going to allow you to be like, oh no. And it shows that they're open for you to say boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. But yeah, all the time. was like,
And
oh,
this wasn't that long ago. We're talking like, what, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah. So not long at all, really.
No.
And I was just like, oh, have you got a girlfriend? Like, have you got a missus? And I was like, oh, no, I've got a boyfriend. They were like, oh, what's his name? And like kind of like the same thing again, like just thinking I'm joking.
It didn't make it a safe space for you to be authentic.
Yeah. So so that whole period for me was really, really weird because I just always, and I feel like that made it harder for me. And sometimes I didn't want to tell people because it actually was just a bit of a process rather than just like, have you got a girlfriend? If that's what they're saying. Oh no, I don't. I've got a boyfriend. Oh, that's nice. Da, da, da. There was a few years when it wasn't like that, and it was like, "Are you joking?" Like even answered that, "Are you joking?" And I'm like, "No, why?" And they're like, "You're gay," and I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh my god, I never would have thought that." Like you don't act gay, and it's all that, and I was just like, "This is like, horrendous."
But again, like I talk about it all the time. Like it's always a process. It's never easy. Like every day you have to come out multiple times, even if you're like, you have to defend why you are gay, defend why you're not camp, defend why you are camp, defend what you're doing. And it's like, unless you have, like in your case, for example, and to an extent my case, where I talk about it so publicly and openly that no one can challenge me on it.
Yeah.
Like, the average person going to work on a Monday morning who just had a lovely weekend away with his boyfriend, and someone turns around to me like, "Did you get up to much this weekend?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I went away with my partner." And they're like, "What's her name? Where are you guys getting married?" It's like you have to always defend your sexuality. And I don't know what the solution is other than people needing to be a bit more open-minded. But I just think it's so fucking annoying. It's just annoying.
It is, and it's weird. Like you just listed, there's so many different things that you have to go through, even when you are out and you're happily in a relationship and all things like that. Yeah, you're still like, I'm lucky now, like you just said, you do it on your podcast and stuff and you can talk about it and nobody can challenge you. And I feel like that in life now. Like I could go into a shop and things happened before when I've bought a card and I'm buying a fiance card and they're like, "Oh, who's the lucky lady?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's for my boyfriend actually." And like, and I can literally come back that quick with personality and like, it's fine. But before it wasn't, do you know what I mean? Like there's definitely been times when I've been like, "Oh, I've gone to get a boyfriend card," and I've pretended that I'm buying it for like my invisible sister that I haven't got. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. We've all done that. It's wild. Like the things that we go through that we think that we just normalize because it's so difficult. If you're of a certain age, arguably it might be easier for people who are younger now. But if you're our age and older, like we never had the psychological safety to go into a shop and say, "Hey, I'm buying something for my boyfriend. What have you got for me?" Like it's so difficult. Obviously things are progressing, things are moving forward. So I don't want people listening to think that, you know, we've got our violins out all the time, because I fully appreciate that society's moved on. But I always want people to have a little bit of a window into kind of what we go through, not just now on a daily basis, but what we went through as like teenagers in our 20s. Like it's really horrible. And it creates traumas and scars that kind of, you know, stay there for a very long time into adulthood.
For sure.
On a happier note, a slight gear change, you are engaged and you posted it publicly and proudly, and it, like I said before, it's amazing. How has that kind of period of your life been with you and Liam?
Yeah, it's been amazing. Like it's been so good, and I nearly didn't post it. I nearly didn't post our proposal because before that, even if you look on my Instagram now and go back, I think I uploaded a few photos of just me and Liam in the photo, but it was us just like sitting at a table at like a restaurant or us on Halloween dressed up. Like, and the caption or hashtags never said boyfriend, love you, any reference of this is my partner up until the proposal. And I think I just kept that private because again, I wasn't fully comfortable. And it was always that fine line of like, do I make this public or do I not? And going back to when you said about did I decide to go public with it after I came out in 2014? I didn't. So it was just a natural progression of like my family, my friends knew, then their friends knew, then whoever I just met, Liam was there and they would know that that's my partner. So it's just a gradual thing over years. But in terms of socially, publicly on platforms, I still didn't ever do a coming out video or a post saying, "Hi guys, I've been holding this in my whole life. I'm gay." Like I didn't ever do that. And I didn't ever like really want to. I think I had times when I feel like I should have done that because that maybe have helped me move on. But for me, my coming out video was the proposal.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even realize it was that. Because we're so in love, and that day was so amazing that I didn't actually, even when I was editing the video and I just like put captions on or something like that, or put the music behind it, just before I was writing the caption, like he said yes, and then I was about to click post, I think just before I clicked post, that was my first thought of, oh shit, we're about to post this. Because like, we've never done that before. I've never posted anything publicly like confirming I'm gay. Do you know what I mean? So I think that was it. But I remember just being like, fuck it, bosh. And I literally just posted it and I didn't think anything of it. And I was like, yeah, do you know what? Like, that's that. But again, luckily, everyone was so kind. Like the amount of messages, like especially online, but like messages, private messages, comments, phone calls, friends of friends, voice notes, whatever. That whole week, 2 weeks was like, I've never felt like that in my life. And I was just so like, again, with the nice words you said earlier, like you don't realize how many people you're inspiring and showing that it's possible for them as well. But I didn't realize about that until it was one of my friends voice noted me and I just started crying. Like he was just basically saying how amazing it is what we're doing. And like, we're not even like trying or we're not doing we're just like being our authentic selves.
Yeah.
And it comes across as so like, he was just like, yeah, it's mad. Like it's so insane that you guys are just choosing to do that and you don't care.
100%. And I think that's why I followed you and I was like, I need him on the podcast because there was something about your authenticity that is so infectious and so powerful. I was recording a podcast last week and I was talking about LGBT influencers, and you see all these couples in LA that like, let's get dressed together. And it's so, I mean, it's lovely because you get to see two men in love and that can only be a good thing. But these people have got millions of followers, but they're so into themselves. It's all about vanity and aesthetics and the gym and designer clothes and restaurants. And it kind of perpetuates or deepens the stereotypes that we're already battling with. But there was something about guy with a very strong Essex accent who was on BGT, is a dancer, getting on one knee to another man to like show his love to the world. And it was heartfelt. Like it really did pull on the heartstrings. And I think, like I said earlier, like I don't think you realize just how powerful seeing visuals like that are. For me, we're the same age, but even for me, it was like, oh my God, like I've been seen. That's great. People younger than me, people older than me, our parents' age, because they're big BGT fans. I always had an issue with that, the lack of representation on mainstream TV anyway. So I think it's incredible. I'd imagine your social media following went up significantly after it.
Yeah, and I think that's what really inspired me because I was like, because I didn't expect anything from it. And I just, it just went so well. And I was like, wow, people are actually tapped in now to like find out more about that. And like how, because you're right, you just, from like BGT, you happened to, the next time you saw us was when I'm proposing, you're like, wait a minute, like, this is insane. Like, what happened in between? I didn't even know he was gay. Like, I've got so many questions, that kind of thing. So I feel like people were really, really like so supportive, but again, wanted to know more. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy talking about that as well. And like things like LGBT related subjects and my coming out experience and anything like that. I really do, like, it comes from a place within me that I love doing and I want to do now.
Absolutely. And I think you should have your own podcast, and it should just be like Ashley fights LGBT stuff. Because there's a very, it's growing, but there's not many of us talking about it. And like I said, like, I think the psychology and the mental health side of things of being gay just isn't talked about enough. Like, there's so much on like RuPaul's Drag Race, and there's fashion, and there's art and culture, which is huge things of the LGBT community, but I think I'm more interested in like the darker side.
Which is mad. Sorry, talking about RuPaul Drag Race, this is another side that I feel like you'd want to hear. Is that I think it's weird. So like something happened where it was in a contract. Actually, it was one of the producers, but basically, long story short, he's a gay guy, and he said about, oh yeah, I'm going to watch like Kylie Minogue, and I was like, oh amazing, when you going, blah blah blah. And then he said, oh, are you into like Kylie, obviously? And I was like, oh, do you know what? Like, I'm not really, like, I'm not. And he was like, are you even gay? And that's what I'm saying. That's another thing that's coming from a gay man in like his late 30s, early 40s, basically now saying to me, am I even gay because I don't like Kylie Minogue? And I'm like, again, it's another hurdle, like, and that's within the community. And I'm like, this is I'm tapping out. This is way too much for me.
There is so much judgment. There is so much, because it works the other way. Like I said, I'm a massive S Club 7 fan. So I went to Leeds the other week to see S Club on tour. And like, I had gay guys in my DMs being like, oh, you're so gay. Or like, you're so pathetic. It's like, don't fucking shame me. Like, there's so much judgment. Like, we've got enough to deal with. I think everyone needs to just like back off and stay in their lane. One thing that I'm really keen to talk to you about is your parenting journey as well, because this is also one of the things that gays themselves, and I include myself, I don't know anything about it. And I feel like I need to, because again, it's not talked about. I can do as much Googling and research as possible. All I know is, from what I've seen and read and heard, is that it's really expensive. And it's really not, it's not straightforward.
No, it's not. And it's
how
those, they were probably our only ideas of it. Probably the last one I'd add in is that I feel like it wasn't possible for people like ourselves. I kind of related it to like surrogacy, because that's the route we chose to go down to become parents. I feel like it was so unreachable. I just felt of people like Kim Kardashian and Tom Daley, and like people that are like fully all the way up there that potentially we wasn't able to do. Do you know what I mean? Whether that be money, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
because finances is probably, I mean, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, obviously there's like a biological consideration that needs to be factored in, but money is one of the biggest hurdles why gay male couples, I should say, find it quite difficult, right?
Yeah, I would say so, but I feel like people don't, I don't know, I don't think people actually know, because there are ways of doing it. Like, if you think of what you spend your money on, like, it's not an obscene amount of money in terms of like, oh, it's £1 million, because there's loads of us that haven't got £1 million in our bank. But I would say it's still within, like, if you're saving to buy a property, or you were saving up for your dream car, or you were saving up to go traveling, I don't know, whatever that thing is that you want to save for, I would say it's exactly the same as that. You have to treat it like that. So I don't think, me personally, unless I'm wrong and I'm completely out of touch, but like, I feel like gay guys that are in a same-sex relationship, I feel like they would always explore it. But again, trying to find out how much it costs isn't easy. You can't type in Google how much is surrogacy, because it doesn't give you a straightforward answer. And it is all different. It's not like a set fee. Do you know what I mean? It's all different based on how you do it in your journey. So yeah, I feel like.
Do you feel like people are like, reading between the lines now? Do you think people have overcomplicated it a bit and look for barriers? Is it easier than people make it out to be?
I think it's not an easy process, but I feel like it's an easy conversation to have and start exploring and see how far you get.
So what's the first thing that you did when you sat down? You're like, right, we definitely want to go down the surrogacy route. Like, what's the first steps?
we literally like Googled surrogacy in the UK and just read up on as much information as possible online. And then we quickly saw that there was a BBC Three series called The Surrogates. And we're like, wow, perfect. 3-part series on BBC Three. This is great. Watch that. And then as soon as we watched that, instantly felt like we knew a lot more of the process, because that series was basically talking about the process and how you do it from different points of view, in terms of heterosexual couple that naturally couldn't conceive for whatever reason, same-sex male couple, same-sex female couple, different avenues, which was great. So yeah, we did that. And then luckily, our biggest thing that we were so lucky about is that Liam's gymnastics coach, him and his husband announced that they were pregnant via surrogacy. And we just had them on Facebook, and I was sitting in bed one morning with Liam. I was just scrolling through Facebook and it popped up. And I was like, oh my God. And it was triplets as well. And I was like, this is amazing. But instantly I was like over the moon for them. But quite quickly I was like, obviously they're a same-sex male couple. I was like, I've got like 1,000 questions. And it was that. And I was like, oh my God. So luckily we had them in our life, and we were
questions.
Yeah. We asked them as many questions, and they were so lovely. Like, without their support, we wouldn't be where we are as quickly as we got to where we are. Do you know what I mean? So luckily we had that, because they were going through it, like living and breathing it at that moment in time. So we could ask them as many questions as possible. But again, we didn't want to like just completely be like, guys, tell us exactly what to do. We're going to do it. Because they gave us advice, like, guys, make sure you research it yourself, because it isn't for everyone. And there's loads of different ways to do it.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, we basically joined 2 Facebook groups. One was called Surrogacy UK, which is an agency based, but it was just like a private Facebook group for people to chat and things like that. And then there was a separate one, which is an independent run surrogacy group, which is called Missing Peace, which is the group where we found our surrogate, Abby. And shout out to Missing Peace, because it's literally the loveliest group.
What a lovely name.
Honestly, exactly. Even that, when I saw it, I was like, yeah, it's already hitting all the spots.
Yeah.
So no, beautiful. So those were the 2 things. And then once being in those groups, you've got thousands of people speaking about their journeys and how they've done it, or how they're going through it, or people that are just starting up and asking questions that you're asking me now, but they're just asking it into a pool of people that actually have the answers.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think it's like with anything, if you go looking for it, you will find it. It's just, I still feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope I am wrong, that there is still, because I've got just as many gay friends as I do straight friends, and they'll always be like, oh, Tom Daly's having a kid, or this one's having a kid, and I've seen my colleagues, blah, blah, blah. And I still feel like, I don't know if I've internalized shame on this, but I feel like there is still a degree of stigma in terms of how are they doing it? Who's the dad? Who's the mum? How do they get the egg? How many rounds of IVF? What if it's triple? Like, there's still, I almost feel like it's incredible. And I definitely want kids as well. And I hope, please God, I can be part of that journey. But I almost want straight people to know the process as well, because I feel like it is something that is a privilege to straight people, more so than, obviously, like, straight people don't have to go down the surrogacy route. They might choose to, but or they might have to, of course. But it's not something that we have the options with. So I kind of think the BBC Three series, not that I've heard of it, but I definitely will watch it. I almost feel like there should be probably more content out there about it.
Yeah, there definitely does need. Yeah, it's not mainstream enough at all. And I remember they have a national surrogacy week. When it happened last year, we were pregnant with Tilly, like via surrogacy at that time. And I remember my agent put me forward to This Morning as like a topic, because it was surrogacy week. And it was a lovely reply, but they just basically said, oh, we think this is amazing, but we're not covering it this week. And that was it. And I was just like, it's such a shame, because it's surrogacy week or day, and a program like This Morning, which cover...
That's what I mean.
Like, they literally cover every story in the world, whether that be like horrific stories or like amazing stories, and even the random ones.
Like Kerry Katona's on OnlyFans.
Literally, yeah, anything. But you've got something like our story with surrogacy that isn't represented enough on mainstream TV. And it's just like, oh yeah, we're not covering it this week. Sorry. And I'm like,
it's a disgrace.
Yeah.
That is quite shameful. That, again, because for you to tell your story on live breakfast TV doesn't just speak to the gay community, the LGBT community, but it educates bigotry.
Yeah.
And like people who are older, our parents' generation and beyond, like to know that this is actually how the modern world works now. Like this is how healthy and happy couples can bring healthy and happy kids into this world, which are going to be way more set up for success than lots of people who are having kids without it.
Yeah.
Ugh, most annoying. So what's next for Ashley? What kind of are you planning to do in the next couple of years and beyond?
Oh, this is such a hard question.
I don't have a career plan either, so I wouldn't be able to answer it, but keen to know what you want to do.
Yeah, so I'm still kind of touring with Twist and Pulse and performing, and that's a side of me that I absolutely love. I feel alive when I'm on stage, and I love that feeling of being on stage. And yeah, I'm really enjoying that still. I'm also a DJ now, so I'm hoping to DJ. I would love to DJ at kind of big events around the world for other artists and things like that. I've got such a huge passion for music. I love it.
What kind of music do you play?
I would say like overall it will just be listed as commercial pop music within the charts, but like my actual passions are more R&B, dancehall, those kind of, yeah. Basically what they were playing in Liquid and Envy back in the day. Oh yeah, but no, I'm loving that at the minute. I'm doing lots more of that at events and things like that, which is cool. Personally, I've written a book. I'm going to say it. I haven't ever said it. And obviously I know we've got the power to put out what we want on this podcast, but no, I've written a book. I wrote it literally, I started it like 4 years ago and I finished it more recently, but it was something I needed to do to document everything that happened in my life from as young as I can remember to now as a gay man, because me at 10 years old, I never ever would have believed where I've got to in terms of living life as a gay man, accepting it, finding my lifelong partner, getting married, having a child. Like that actually sounds like a fairy tale. Like it doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. And I think I needed to offload a lot of things that had happened. And I feel like it was really important for me to start from the very beginning up until now to inspire that one person and that one young boy or girl that is struggling with their sexuality. And they're like, actually, not only that it's okay to be gay and I'm like other people, but I can live a normal life. I can find a partner. I can get married. I can have a child. I can hopefully have my own house. I can live a normal life, which back in the day, we didn't feel like we could do because we were of a certain way. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's exciting. I've written that and it's basically waiting to be published, but there's no official like information. That's why I've never actually mentioned it before, because I'm one of these that I don't like talking about things unless they're like definitely happening. And I know one day it will happen, but because I haven't got a date for you, or like, oh, here it is. Do you know what I mean? But
have you got a publisher?
It's literally at that stage now between agent and publisher. So even after this, like, I don't know.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So is it like a memoir? Is it like...
It's a memoir, yeah.
Wow. Well, I'd definitely be... Well, we're going to need a part 2 when it's released, for sure.
Thank you, mate. And I also want to like... I don't know what this field is, but like, I love doing this, what we're doing now. And I love talking about LGBT related topics and raising awareness. And I'm trying my best. And I think it's quite hard to navigate a direct career path and how you do that. But I think with things like the book and podcasts like yourself, I think things like that definitely bring awareness and attention to subjects. And I just really enjoy talking and debating about things like this, and raising awareness for LGBT people. I think it's amazing, and it's just a real passion of mine, because the thought, I've said it before, but the thought of somebody struggling out there and having nobody to lean on is an awful thought, because we've all gone through it, and I would hate for someone to be going through that. And I think it's funny, I even had a conversation with my manager recently about if I was to ever do like The Jungle or Strictly or Dancing on Ice or one of those shows, which I definitely would love to do one of those. And he said, oh, like if you did Strictly, would you be partnered up with a male professional, or would it be a female? Because a part of me was like, oh, actually, no, I'll just go with a female and that's fine. But I was like, no, I would be partnered up with a male dancer, not because I'm trying to prove a point, but I think for a family that watches Strictly or BGT, watching Strictly at home, and there's 13-year-old James sitting there with his family, and me and the male dancer pop up and we're dancing, and you happen to say innocently, oh, mummy, how comes there's two guys dancing together? That is already the first step to normalizing and making it okay for that child in their family home, for that conversation to happen with mum and dad or whoever it may be. Oh yeah, like some people are in same-sex relationships, some people have a mum and dad or man and woman. Like it's those early stages that I wish, if Strictly was on when I was 13 and a same-sex partner come up, that might have been a conversation in my household that made me feel like, oh, my mum and dad actually are fine with that. Do you know what I mean?
100%. You can only be what you can see, really. And we were blinkered for so long. I mean, I just remember there was Brian Dowling from Big Brother on like series 2.
Yeah.
And that was like the first LGBT reality TV star that I knew of.
Yeah.
But like didn't really represent me. And then obviously there's Graham Norton, Lily Savage, Dale Winton. And I was just like, fuck this. If being gay is just going to be a caricature and an over the top, type of person, then I don't want to come out.
Yeah.
I can't come out, because then you just get associated with things like that. So, I think it's so important for people like you, with the platform that you've got, to sort of raise more awareness, because I still don't think it's perfect. The world definitely isn't perfect. No. It's still illegal to be gay in, I think 30 odd countries. So, that's really, really powerful. Maybe we need to start a new podcast series, you and me, and we just like start a whole new thing. So looking back, one thing I ask all my guests to do is to write a letter or to give advice to their younger selves. Like, what would older Ashley like to say to younger Ashley?
I would like to say that everything will be okay. And I know that sounds like such a straightforward / boring answer, but there were just times when I felt like I really settled for friends. Like I believed that I was just going to be in the closet and I'm just going to settle for friends, and I'm never going to get married or have a family or be in love. And I've really come to peace with that thought. So I would say that everything's going to be okay. Like it will actually be fine. No matter how dark those moments get, it's going to be okay. And living openly as a gay man is the best thing in the world.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you, because you symbolize everything. One of the reasons I think gays are so depressed a lot of the time, I'm trying to think of a better word, but the reason why I was so depressed as a closeted gay person is because I never thought I'd be able to live the life that my heterosexual peers could, get married, have a family, have kids, go on family holidays, not be a party boy, that there's all the things that I thought my life is.
You don't feel like that now, do you?
No. I've grown up and I'm more mature and I'm in a relationship. I'm, in my mid-30s. Like I definitely have more perspective, but things have moved on. Only because things have moved on in the last 5 years. Footballers coming out, people like you coming out or going more public. As sad as it is, because we shouldn't have to rely on people to come out for us to feel seen, but it's a recognition that gay trauma, like the reason why the gay community, the LGBT community is the way it is because we live with so much trauma and so much shame that was inflicted on us early on. I just hope that Gen Alpha, your daughter included, are going to grow up in a far more inclusive and diverse world where people will not have to feel shame or experience any trauma for not being heterosexual. So I think it's really, really powerful what you're doing.
Sure.
And what you said.
Thank you. No, thank you, mate. I appreciate that.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. It was a great.
You're amazing. I love. Yeah, we've chatted for so long, but no, thank you so much for having me. Like, it's been amazing, and like I said, you're absolutely smashing it. This podcast is insane. So thank you for having me on.
Stop it. Thank you. You too. And hopefully our paths will cross very soon as well. Yeah, whenever you're in town, we'll catch up. Anyway, nice to see you. Take care. Bye. Thank you as always for taking the time out of your day to listen or watch this podcast. It really means the world to me and the feedback is invaluable. So if you do have any comments or thoughts, please leave them either on YouTube or get in touch with me on social media. Lastly, a huge thank you to Ashley for bearing it all and being so vulnerable in this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I did making it. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you very soon.